Hello and welcome to Maescanner Chapel's Thought for the Week. One thing that has kept many of us going during lockdown is that nowadays it's so easy to send each other messages to encourage, help and support. Messaging, texts, phone calls, WhatsApp, etc. makes it all so easy. But go back to the 1st century AD. Communication was done mainly face-to-face or by letter. In fact, there was no other way. And this is how people communicated. They would send letters across the Roman Empire. Paul, the Apostle, was one of the early leaders of the Christian church. Paul ended up in prison in Rome, not because he had committed some horrible crime, but because he was a Christian. Paul knew all about being locked down. In fact, in his case, it went a step further and he was locked up. And when he gets to write his final letter, he is on death row. He's waiting to be executed in Rome. And while he's waiting for the day of his death to arrive, he sends a letter to a man named Timothy, one of his co-workers and one of his great friends. In this letter, he refers to Jesus Christ as the Saviour who had abolished death. Jesus Christ is the Saviour who has abolished death. On the face of it, it's a strange thing to say, knowing that he would be executed. He would soon die. He knew that death was a reality. He knew that his own death was a reality. And yet, as he thinks about Jesus Christ, he calls him Saviour and he calls him the person who has abolished death. And yet Paul himself knows that he will soon die. So how can Jesus Christ be the person who has abolished death? To work this out, we need to think about Jesus Christ himself. What happened to him on that first Easter weekend? He was crucified on Friday, but then early on Sunday morning, he was raised from the dead. And even though his enemies had done everything to stop this, his resurrection from the dead was inevitable, and it happened early on Sunday morning. In doing this, Jesus Christ abolishes death for himself because he doesn't die again, but he ascends 40 days later back into heaven. So Jesus Christ abolished death in his own experience, but Jesus Christ doing this for himself and in his own experience is what is called the first fruit. Now, we all know what the first fruit is. If we grow veg or fruit, then the first one comes. You may grow tomatoes in the glasshouse. The first one ripens, but it's the first one, and others follow. So Jesus Christ, abolishing death in his own experience, is the first fruit because others will follow. The big question is, who will follow? Who are these others that will follow Jesus Christ and share in his victory over death? Paul is in Rome. He's on death row in a Roman prison, but he faces death knowing that having trusted Jesus Christ, he too will share in the victory of Jesus Christ over death. So as he writes this letter from death row to his great friend Timothy, he underlines the hope, emphasizes the hope that Christians have in Jesus Christ. In him, for them, death is abolished. This means that on the other side of death, there is hope. There is certainty of life that never ends. Life that never ends with our Creator in all his glory. The good news about Jesus is this, that our wrongdoing, our sin is forgiven by trusting him, and that his death on the cross means a real death for him, but he is raised from the dead, and so death is abolished. And this is the Christian hope that remains firm when things get dark, when life gets brutal, in the middle of a pandemic. This is the Christian's great hope. Jesus Christ is Saviour. Jesus Christ is the one who has abolished death. Trust him. Put your faith in him. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the end. May God keep us safe. May God bless us all. Thank you.